Greetings, esteemed audience. Good to meet you once again. I'm always glad to know you're still determined to develop your proficiency in this language, English. Thank you for being out there for Phenomenal Success Academy. Listeners, today we're going to learn about Concord, Concord. Concord. Now, in English grammar, when we say Concord, we're talking about one thing. There is agreement between subject and verb. Before you learn about Concord, there is need for me to give you a short reminder about the terms, the verb, the subject, and the object. When we say verb, verb, we are talking about one of the most important parts of speech in English grammar. The verb is so important in English grammar that you may hardly be able to compose a sentence that is grammatically correct without using a verb. While on the other hand, you can use a single verb to make a meaningful sentence in English without having to use another word. For example, you can say come using just come, without adding the adverb here. If you don't want to have to add the adverb here by saying come here, you can say come. That word alone sends a meaningful message to the listener. So you see, the verb is so important that you can make a grammatically correct sentence by using it. Listeners, verbs are action words. A verb is the doer of action in a sentence. Though some verbs do not express actions, and these are what we call auxiliary verbs. And as a reminder, an auxiliary verb is a helping verb. They help us to express tense, that is whether present continuous, future tense, or past continuous or future perfect. For example, present continuous. You cannot express yourself using present continuous tense without using auxiliary verb. Let me give you an example in a sentence. I am talking to you right now. We are studying English grammar. The verb am in the sentence is an auxiliary verb. We are studying English grammar. The word are, A-R-E in this sentence, is also an auxiliary verb. Let's try to remove them from the sentence and see whether the grammar will be correct. I talking to you right now. Does it make sense? It doesn't. I know you know it. It's very wrong. What about the are in the second sentence? We studying English grammar right now. Does it make sense? No. I know you know it. So it's wrong. Now, apart from auxiliary verbs, we also have a very important type of verbs, which we call main verbs. Listeners, when we say main verb, a main verb can either be regular verb or irregular verb. As a reminder, a regular verb is the type of verb that usually forms its past form and past participle form by simply ending in D, IED, or ED. Let me give you an example with one that ends in D to form its past form or past participle form. And that is the word dance. D-A-N-C-E. Dance. If you want to change it from infinitive form dance to past form or past participle form, all you need to do is to add D and you get D-A-N-C-E-D, dance. And this is an auxiliary verb. Dance, danced, danced. The next, listeners, let me give you an example of a main verb, regular verb, that ends in ed to form its past form. The ones that end in ed are usually the ones that end in a consonant, like the word record, R-E-C-O-R-D, record. Any regular verb that ends in a consonant, if you are going to change it from infinitive form to past form or past participle form, you just go ahead and add ed. So record, you add ed and then you say recorded. Another example, barb, B-A-R-B. Oh, looks like I need to go and have my hair barbed. Well, listeners, I've indirectly given you an example. The word B-A-R-B-E-D, barbed, is an example of a regular verb that ends in ed in order to form its past form. Now let's move to the next one, which ends in ied to form its past form or past participle form. And this is the one that ends in ry. For example, the word cry, C-R-Y. Remember? Good, I know you do. Cry, C-R-Y. You remove the Y at the end, you add I-E-D and you get C-R-I-E-D, cry. The last one is the word dry, which is D-R-Y. You remove the Y, you add I-E-D, and that is dry. Well, listeners, this is all I'd like to tell you about regular verb. Now let's move on to the next one, which is irregular verb. Now, why do we call this type of verb irregular? It is because it does not form its past form or past participle form by simply ending in D, IED, or D, as in the case of regular verb. This type of verb that we call irregular verb, sometimes it changes 4 times, some of them 3 times, some of them 2 times, some of them may even refuse to change at all. That is why English grammarians call them irregular, because they do not have a single formality of changing their different forms. Example, the word eat, E-A-T, eat, it changes 3 times. Eat, ate, eaten. Eat, E-A-T, ate, A-T-E, and then eaten, E-A-T-E-N. You see? It makes it weird. This is one of the things that is very confusing to most language learners. Another example is the word fall, F-A-L-L, fall. It changes 3 times. Fall, fell, fallen. Imagine. Fall, F-A-L-L. And then what? Fell, F-E-L-L. And then all of a sudden it changes to F-A-L-L-E-N, fallen. It's very confusing, isn't it? Well, that's why we call them irregular verbs. Now, let me give you an example of an irregular verb that doesn't change at all. The word set, S-E-T, set, set, set. Infinitive form, set. Past form, set. Past participle form, set. Well, listeners, that is why we call them irregular verbs. Now, with that being said, I believe this discussion has reminded you what do we really mean by verb. Now let's go talk quickly about the term subject. Esteemed audience, when we talk about subject, it must either be one of these two. Subject in an English sentence must either be a noun or a personal pronoun. Yes, noun or personal pronoun. Let me give you the example of the sentence I earlier on gave you. I am talking to you. The I in the sentence is the subject. If I want to remove the personal pronoun I can replace it with a noun. I can say, Mr. Bakano is talking to you. You see, that's my name, Mr. Bakano, or Sarvakano, as students used to call me. So, Sarvakano or Mr. Bakano is the noun, and it is the subject in this sentence. Mr. Wakano is talking to you right now. And if I remove the subject, the noun, Mr. Wakano or Savakano, I say, I am talking to you. That I is the subject. Good listeners. Object of a sentence must also be a personal pronoun or a noun. Let me give you an example. I have a cat, by the way. I hope you do love cats. Yeah, I love them. Well, my cat catches lizard. The noun cat is the subject in the sentence because it is the doer of action in the sentence that catches the object lizard. I forgot to tell you before, when we see subject of a sentence, we mean the doer of action in a sentence. I am talking to you right now. Who does the action of talking? I. That's me. Okay? Now let's go back to this example, the recent example I gave you. My cat catches lizards. My cat is the subject because it is the thing that does the action of catching lizards. Now, what is the object in this sentence? The object in the sentence is lizards, lizards, or in American English, lizards, lizards. Now, lizard is the object of the sentence because it is the thing that receives the action of being caught by the cat. Well, listeners, now let's go back to the term called Concord. Concord, as I have said earlier on, is the agreement between subject and verb. In English, if you say something like, my cat, CAT singular, my cat are jumping, this grammar is wrong because you cannot use a singular noun cat together with an auxiliary verb are, are, which is plural in the sentence. Yes, it is wrong. If you say, my cat are jumping, this is wrong. The correct way of constructing this sentence, listeners, it should be, my cat is jumping. But if you really need to use auxiliary verb are, then that cat CAT must be pluralized. It should be my cats. So you see, my cats are jumping. That means you have 2 or 3 or many cats. So this is what we call concord. Agreement between subject and verb. What is the subject in this sentence? My cat. Okay? What is the verb? Are. So if you say, my cats are jumping, then there is concord. There is agreement and the grammar is correct. But if you say, my cat, singular CAT, my cat are jumping, are, the grammar is wrong. And if you say, my cats, CATS, and then you use the auxiliary verb is, and say, my cat is jumping, listeners, the grammar is wrong because there is no agreement. Esteemed audience, that's what we call concord. Agreement between subject and verb. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask or contact Phenomenal Success Academy. We are dutifully dedicated to educate the humanity we are privileged to be part of. Please, I beg of you, okay? If this is your first time, welcome. Be sure to subscribe. I assure you, you don't want to miss out. Love you. Good luck in your English studies. Bye for now.